Hello, everybody. I'm David of Super Future School, and these are my partners, CP Admissions, Philip and Chris. Welcome to the first episode. Today we're going to talk about what's going on with SAT and ACT. Phil, could you kind of just give us a recap of what's going on in that landscape?
Yeah, so I'm sure many of you have heard that the UC system has announced that they will be abolishing the SAT and ACT as a measure of admissions in the next 5 years. So that won't affect you if you are in 10th grade, 11th grade, or 12th grade. But for 9th grade and 8th grade students, you're going to see a change where the test scores won't matter anymore for admissions. However, they will matter for scholarships.
And can I just jump in that that's solely for California residents applying to the UC system. It doesn't apply to private schools. So if you're interested in a school like USC or any of the Ivy Leagues, they have made no such announcement, and they're going to continue to use the SAT and ACT and other standardized tests. So this just to be very, very clear about that.
Let me ask you guys a question. I've heard that the test obviously is now optional. Does that mean that you should not take the test if you're applying to UCs?
If you're from an area where a lot of students go to UC schools and it's very academically selective, then you're going to want the extra edge of having a high test score because you're going to stand out next to the students who don't take the SAT.
Now we're talking about Irvine in particular, right, guys? How does this affect Irvine students in the upcoming year, having that test being optional?
Well, I think, as Phil said, if you are a high scorer, it is still an advantage in terms of, because there's still other high scorers and you still need that metric. But beyond admissions, I want to stress that there are lots of advantages to having a high score. We know a couple cases where people were able to get, at the UC system, mind you, and this will still be true, scholarships and close to full ride scholarships for places like Berkeley or UCI. So this, even if you were still intending to go to one of those UC schools, it's still going to be advantageous to have those high scores in addition to the GPA and other achievements, because they still do matter, not necessarily for maybe admissions anymore, but for other things they do matter. And I do want to bring up that while the regents were unanimous in this decision, apparently the faculty were not at all. They were quite opposed to it. And we've heard that internally they still find test scores to be useful for things like course placement. And there might be things where you can place out of certain prerequisites, for example, and then when you qualify for not just internal UC scholarships, but external scholarships. So I would never dismiss it entirely.
So Phil and Chris, what should parents be doing now, or rather, what should students be doing now to prepare for the upcoming year in high school?
Well, let me tell you something that will tie it all together, I think. Think of it from the perspective of UC. What they're going to see now is you as a student. They're going to see your GPA. They're going to see your extracurriculars, and they're going to see your essays. So the question you have to ask yourself is, how are you going to stand out to them? So what can you do with your GPA to make that look the best? How can you make your extracurriculars stand out? And how can you make your story strong with your essay? But at the end of the day, if you think about it, compare yourself to your friends. It's going to be very similar for many students, unless you have something very special. So what the SAT does is gives you another category. Yes, it's optional, but if you have a high SAT score, you're going to look much better than the kids who had the same GPA, the same extracurriculars, and the same good essays. So that's why it's so important to still prepare for the SAT.
Chris?
Yeah, and to reiterate what Phil said, in some ways, nothing has really changed, at least with respect. I mean, obviously it has changed a little bit, but with respect to the UCs, they've always weighted GPA more heavily than what Phil said. So it's always been critical to take school quite seriously. And this past term has been a strange one in that obviously most people are online and grades have been sort of washed out, and grades have been one of the big indicators of how you do. And what I would say to students who have the option of having a grade versus pass fail, if you did well, obviously, if you didn't do well, you should take the pass instead of the grade. If you did well, you should always choose the grade, the letter grade, as opposed to the pass fail. And even if you cannot choose the grade, because some people don't have that option, well, the school year's almost over, but you want to make sure that you're still putting in the best effort and impressing your teachers, because you're still going to need recommendations or some way to stand out.
Okay, let me ask a more specific question though. Should I be selecting my courses for the upcoming school year in high school a bit differently, more strategically? Do I take APs if they allow it at a younger grade level, like 9th or 10th? We don't know how the school is going to respond, but should I be looking into that? Should I be taking easier courses? What's your overall advice?
Yeah, so look, GPA is a combination of two things. They're going to be looking at obviously what your GPA is, right? Is it a 3.2? Is it a 3.9? But it also matters how hard the curriculum was. So there's not an easy answer to that question. If you were to get a 3.1 with a very hard curriculum, that wouldn't look good. It's better to get a 4.0 in an easy curriculum. But better still is to get a 4.0 in a hard curriculum. So you have to ask yourself that question: which classes can I succeed at? So pick the hardest level courses that you feel confident that you can succeed at.
Let me add on to that. I agree with Phil. However, there are certain tracks, even within the UC system, such as the EECS program at Berkeley, which are more rigorous and they have a higher expectation level. So you can't be just, if you strategically just pick easier level math and science classes and avoid the APs, you're probably not going to there's probably less of a chance you're going to be selected than those students who pick those harder classes. And because right now, the majority of those students already are, 4.0 in AP and advanced classes. So you want to challenge yourself as much as possible.
All right, great. Guys, let's get together again and make sure that we are providing more information, more useful information for our parents, our clients, so that they are kind of navigating through this really uncertain time, educationally and health-wise, so that, they can help prepare, they can help plan. They can do so with authority figures, a trusted voice. And so I'd like to connect with you guys again. Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds great.